Good evening, students. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's get started. Just a minute. So I hope you're able to see my screen. Right. So today we'll get started with the next volume of your 11th standard, that is properties of matter. Okay. So in properties of matter, can someone tell me what are all the topics you have in your volume 2 11th standard? So what is the topic with which it starts? It starts with
Solids, sir.
property. It starts with properties of solids. What property does it start with?
Elasticity.
It is mechanical properties, yes. That mechanical properties of solids is what is basically classified under the concept of elasticity. Then we have the concept of mechanical properties of fluids, which is called as fluid statics and dynamics, right? So this will be the next chapter. Then you have the thermal properties. So we have thermal properties of matter, right? So today our topic of discussion is going to be about the mechanical properties of solids, which can be simply called as elasticity. Okay. So with the hope that you know the basics, I'm going to tell you all the formulae and different terms that are used in the formulae, and I'm going to concentrate more on solving problems. If there is any topic that you're not comfortable with, you can let me know, that I will explain it in an elaborate way. Okay. So when you talk about elasticity, what comes to our mind? So what do you mean by elasticity? Is the property of a material, right? Property of a material to undergo what? It is a property of a material to undergo
Change in shape.
dash. Change in shape and
Without deformation.
shape and size without deformation. Okay. So I'm coming to this point. Let's say the material should have the property of undergoing the change in shape and size under what conditions? Under the application of what force?
External force.
External force. The technical name of that external force is called as deforming force, right? Forming, the opposite of forming is deforming, means it's completely getting dismantled kind of. So when you apply a deforming force, that is a force which is trying to change the shape and size of the object, then if the material is responding to it, then we can say the material is elastic in nature, right? That's what the basic definition is. But according to physics, we need to add one more term. We can say a material is elastic under what scenario? Not only it should change its shape and size when you apply the deforming force, but it should be able to regain its original shape under what situation? Under the removal of deforming force. I hope you're able to understand, guys.
Yes, sir.
Right? So there's a very basic term. So the opposite of elasticity is called as, what are the materials which are not elastic in nature? We call them as plastic. The opposite of elasticity is plasticity. Okay. Next. So when you talk about a deforming force, what you can do is, let's think of a material. Let's think of a, okay, let's assume it's a small material made up of rubber. If I apply a force on it, then what is going to happen to it? If its original length is L, then there is a tendency of this material to have an increase in length by a value of delta L. Then let's say the final length is delta L when you apply the deforming force. When you apply the deforming force, what is going to happen within the material which is able to make the material regain its original shape? So deforming force is the external force. Okay, understood. Now, what should be the force that is acting internal to the material, which is able to bring it back to its original shape?
Restoring force.
Yes, it's called as a restoring force. So all elastic materials have a restoring force within them, right? Secondly, is there a possibility for an elastic material to become plastic?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it is. So when is it going to happen? When the deforming force is going to cross a certain limit, and that limit is what is called as elastic limit. So elastic limit, the upper limit of the deforming force up to which if the deforming force is removed, the object will be able to regain its original shape completely. Beyond which, what will happen? If deforming force is increased, the object loses its property of elasticity and gets permanently deformed. Means it is not possible to bring it back to its original shape and size. Right. So that's what is called as elastic limit. This word has a very high importance in this chapter. We use the word elastic limit repeatedly. Let's see when we are going to use. So what are perfectly elastic bodies? Those bodies which regain its original configuration immediately and completely after the removal of deforming force are called perfectly elastic bodies. Examples are quartz, phosphor, bronze, etc. These are all perfectly elastic materials. Similarly, you have perfectly plastic bodies. Those bodies which do not regain its original shape and configuration at all on the removal of deforming force are called perfectly plastic bodies. Example, putty, paraffin, wax. Okay. So all these things are perfectly plastic bodies. This is a theory part till now. But for us, in terms of competitive exam, we need to know the mathematical formulae that are used and how to solve the problems, right? Now, there are two important terms that we keep repeatedly using in this chapter. What are they? One is called as stress and the second is
Strain.
strain. Right. So what do we mean by stress? When you apply a restoring force, when you apply a deforming force, the amount of restoring force that is going to come within the material divided by the unit area of it. The amount of restoring force acting per unit area of a deformed object is what is called as stress. So to put it in simple terms, stress is nothing but restoring force divided by the area of cross section or whatever area it is, the area on which the force is being applied. Okay, its SI unit is going to be Newton per meter square or Pascal, and the dimensional formula is going to be ml minus 1 minus 2. Okay. Next, stress is a tensor quantity. What do we mean by tensor? Tensors are also which have directions, but they do not follow the vector laws of addition. Okay. Some books give it as scalar quantity. Anyways, that's a debatable topic. So stress is actually like pressure, right? Some books call it as scalar, some books call it as tensor. Let's not worry about that point. Next. When you talk about the stress, depending on what kind of a restoring force is going to come into picture, it is basically classified into three types. What are the three types that you're going to see? One is called as normal stress, the second is called as volumetric stress, and the third is called as tangential stress. So what do we mean by normal stress? If the deforming force is applied normally to an object, then the stress is called as the normal stress. Sometimes we refer to it as tensile stress when there is an increase in length of the object. Okay, and it is also called as compressional stress when there is a decrease in length of the object. Okay. Next is volumetric stress. So what do you mean by volumetric stress? It is a deforming force which is applied normally on an object all over its surface. That is, this kind of a this kind of a force will cause a change in volume of the object. Then that kind of a stress is what is called as volumetric stress. Some people refer to it as hydrostatic stress also. Generally, this kind of a stress is applied for liquids. Okay, it's mainly studied for liquids, which we are going to see in the next chapter. In this chapter, mostly we'll be concentrating on tensile and compressional stress. To be more precise, more on tensile only, because we'll be concerned about how much the object is getting extended. Okay. Next is tangential stress. So what do we mean by tangential stress? Suppose you have a book in your hand. Okay. You're holding the book. Let's say this is your left hand and this is your right hand. When you apply a force tangential to the surface using the right hand, keeping the left hand fixed, then what will happen? Then there is going to be a change in shape of this object. It will become like something like this. There will be a small deformation taking place. It is going to become like this because the bottom surface is fixed, and due to friction, it is going to be at rest, whereas the topmost portion will get tangentially moved. So this kind of a force, the tangential force per unit area, is what is called as tangential stress. Okay. So what does a tangential stress do? It changes the shape of the object. Clear, guys? So is there any doubt with respect to stress? Is there any point that you want me to explain? Okay.
No, sir.
So, okay, I assume things are clear. That is all about stress. Next is strain. So what do we mean by strain? Strain, to put it in simple terms, it is a change in dimension to the original dimension. Or else I can call it as a fractional value. Remember, in physics, I told you there are two values. One is called as fractional change, and the second is called as percentage change. So what do we mean by fractional change? Fractional change is final minus initial divided by initial. I'm repeating it again. Fractional change is nothing but final minus initial divided by initial. Whereas percentage change is nothing but final minus initial divided by initial into 100. Clear, guys? So the fractional change in configuration of any object is technically called as strain. So the simplest term you need to have in your mind is strain is nothing but a fractional change. Okay. So how do we mathematically write? Strain is change in configuration by original configuration. That is change in something to the original value is what is called as strain. So again, strain is also divided into three parts, three types. One is longitudinal, one is volumetric, and the third is shearing. So what do you mean by longitudinal? Name itself is suggesting longitudinal means something related to length. Change in length by original length is called as longitudinal strain. What is volumetric strain? It is a change in volume to the original volume. That is delta V divided by V. Is what is volumetric strain. What is shearing strain? Shearing strain is nothing but the angular displacement of the plane perpendicular to the fixed surface. So I told you about tangential stress, right? This value theta is what is called as shearing strain. Okay. So the other two are like ratios. For the shearing strain, we call it as angle because there is going to be a small definition that we are going to give to it. Let me explain that alone. So if I look at the zoomed version of the book, this is the original way the book is going to be. Okay. This theta is what is called as shearing strain. Let's say this distance is d and this distance is delta x. Then what is tan theta from this? It is delta x divided by d. But whenever you apply a tangential stress, right, the value of theta will be small. When theta is small, tan theta can be, when theta is small, tan theta is approximated to theta. So theta will be equal to delta x divided by d. Here, if you observe, here also it is ratio only. But to put it in simple terms, the theta is what we are going to call it as shearing strain. Am I clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Good. So this is all about stress and strain. Okay. So if a problem is asked related to stress, we are going to use the formula related to that particular context. Strain, similarly, the formula related to the same the particular context. The next concept is there a law which is going to give us the relation between stress and strain? That law is what is called as Hooke's law. So what does Hooke's law mainly speak about? It speaks about the relation between stress and strain under a certain condition. What is it?
Within the
Elastic
elastic
limit.
limit.
Yes. Within the limit of elasticity or within the elastic limit, it is observed that the stress is directly proportional to strain. Right? So when I write it mathematically, stress is proportional to strain. When the proportionality symbol is removed, the constant that we introduce is E. And that E is what is called as the modulus of elasticity. Right? This is not a new term to us. It is the modulus of elasticity that we are going to talk about. Okay. So modulus of elasticity is also called as elastic moduli. See, any word that is ending with US will be replaced as I. So US represents singular, I represents plural. So modulus is singular, moduli is plural. Okay. The ratio of stress and strain is called as modulus of elasticity or elastic moduli. The reason why we call it as elastic moduli is because there are three types of stress and three types of strains. When you bring the relation between them, you can define three modulus of elasticity. In that, the first and the foremost one is Young's modulus of elasticity. What does it state? Within the elastic limit, it is a ratio of the normal stress to the longitudinal strain. The ratio of the normal stress to the longitudinal strain is what is called as Young's modulus of elasticity, and this is a very, very, very important concept. And it is represented by the symbol Y. How do we write normal stress as? It is force divided by area. F by A is common for everything. Only thing is, depending on the restoring force, we are going to change the name of the stress. Okay. Delta L by L represents the longitudinal strain. So the L will go up. You will have it as F into L divided by A into delta L. Then Y is also equal to, sometimes F is written as M into G, provided the object which is getting extended. No, let's say you have a thin wire in your hand. If the wire is suspended using a mass M, then we take that mg into consideration. Mg into mg into L divided by A into delta L. So this is going to be the formula. Okay, where delta L is the change, L is the original length. Clear, guys? Don't look at this. Here they have swapped and written it.
Sir,
Tell me.
that M is the mass of the wire, right?
Mass of the wire, you can say, or if there is any suspended one, you can take that also. Okay. So you want to say this
Yes.
M as the mass of the wire. Then, if that is the case, then it should be like this. But here, see, why I'm not calling it as the mass of the wire is because if the mass of the wire is going to act at the center of mass, if it is mg, the weight is going to act downwards. The object is not going to get extended due to its own weight. That is also there.
Yes, sir, got it.
Okay. But again, that depends on the context of the problem. Let's see what is going to be the case. Okay. So force constant of a wire. So we know that there is a spring constant. When you write half kx square, k represents the spring constant. Similarly, for a wire also, because wire is also an elastic material, there is something called as force constant of wire. So what is it? It is a force required to produce unit elongation in a wire, which is called as the force constant of the material of the wire. So how to remember this is, it's very simple. Observe. I say F is equal to Kx, right? The restoring force is equal to K into X, which is happening within a spring. So K will be equal to F divided by X, accepted. So how do you define spring constant? It is the amount of force.
Acting
It is
for
the
unit
amount.
extension.
Yes. The amount of, I can say the amount of force that you need to apply to produce a unit elongation in the wire. Can I define it like this? The same thing is for a wire also. The force required to produce an unit elongation in the wire is called as force constant of the material. And the value of K is given as Y into A divided by L. Okay, this is what is the force constant. Make a note of it. Next. Next is the bulk modulus of elasticity. So how do you define it? Bulk modulus is defined for a three-dimensional object, especially in the case of liquids, because liquids have bulk modulus of elasticity. So it is defined as the ratio of the volumetric stress to the volumetric strain. So what is the value of volumetric stress? Volumetric stress is given as F divided by A. Again, it's also called as hydrostatic stress, as I told you. And delta V divided by V. Most of the cases, the bulk modulus will have a negative value because in the case, as I told you, it is going to be in the case of liquids, you will only try to compress the liquid. You will not try to elongate it. Okay. So when you try to compress it, you will apply the pressure on the, if you take a liquid column, the pressure is applied, the force on it is applied in all the four directions. Okay. Such that that force per unit area is what we technically call it as pressure. And that pressure divided by delta V by V with a negative sign because it is undergoing compression is what is called as bulk modulus of elasticity. So F into V divided by A into delta V with a minus. Okay. Then what is this F by A that you can call it as? So F by A we can call it as pressure into volume divided by minus delta V. Remember, this term is very important in the case of sound also. When we discuss about the sound traveling in a medium, when we calculate the velocity of it, we'll be using this equation. Okay. So negative sign indicates when the pressure increases, volume decreases, and vice versa. That's the meaning. Okay. Next. The reciprocal of bulk modulus is what is called as compressibility. The reciprocal of bulk modulus is called as compressibility. You can make a note of this point as well. Okay. Moving on to the next concept. The third one is called as modulus of rigidity. Don't get confused. The other two are called as modulus of elasticity, whereas the third one is called as modulus of rigidity because the concept of shear modulus we mainly use for rigid objects. So it is defined as the tangential stress to the shearing strain within the elastic limit, and it is represented by the symbol neta. So neta will be equal to F divided by A divided by theta. Okay, I already explained what is the value of theta. You can have that in your mind. Okay, next. What are all the factors that will affect the elasticity of a material? One is modulus of elasticity of material decreases with the rise in temperature except for invar. Invar is a material. Second, by annealing, elasticity of a material decreases. Okay, so annealing means by heating the material. Okay, by heating the material, the elasticity of it is going to decrease because obviously the particles are going to move away from each other. Third, by hammering or rolling, elasticity of the material is going to increase. Fourth, addition of impurities affects the elastic properties depending on whether impurities are themselves more or less elastic. Okay, anyways, this is only for your information. So when you talk about liquids, for liquids, modulus of rigidity is 0. As I told you, rigid is for solid objects. Okay. Similarly, Young's modulus and modulus of rigidity are possessed by solid materials only, whereas bulk modulus is for liquids. Next. The next concept is Poisson's ratio. Can someone tell me what is this Poisson's ratio? So let's try to understand. Yeah, tell me.
So when there's a longitudinal strain, there's also a corresponding lateral strain in the wire.
Right. So what will happen is when the material is getting elongated, you would have studied under this concept, R is directly proportional to L, R is directly inversely proportional to A, R is equal to rho L by A. You remember this, right? When they say the length of the material is increasing, what will happen to the area? Do you guys remember this? It will decrease, no? So we generally miss that concept. So when the material is getting elongated, then there will be a compression taking place with respect to the diameter of it. Can I say something like this? Okay. So when a deforming force is applied at the free end of a suspended wire of length L and radius R, then its length increases by dl and its radius decreases by how much value? dr. Right? Now, two types of strains are produced by a single force. What are they? One is longitudinal strain, which is increasing the length, that is delta L by L. And there is a lateral strain, which is decreasing the radius, that is by minus delta R by R. So when you talk about Poisson's ratio, lateral strain divided by the longitudinal strain is what is called as Poisson's ratio. It is represented by the symbol sigma. So the theoretical value of Poisson's ratio generally lies between -1 to 0.5. Practical value lies between 0 to 0.5. So this is about Poisson's ratio. Okay. So these are all the basics you need to know for solving the problems. Let's do few problems, then we will revisit this concept. Okay. It's more of theory. Shall we get started, guys?
Sir, and the Poisson's ratio formula matram.
Yeah, it is. I write it down. Lateral strain divided by longitudinal strain. Let me know once you're done there.
Yes, sir, done.
Done? Yeah. So you're talking about in an experiment, brass and steel wires of length 1 meter, each with areas of cross section 1 millimeter squares are used. The wires are connected in series, and one end of the combined wire is connected to the rigid support and the other is subjected to elongation. The stress required to produce a net elongation of 0.2 millimeter is how much? So let's try to observe. So brass and steel are two wires which are used of length 1 meter, each of some cross-section area. Wires are connected in series. The combined wire is connected to a rigid support and the other is subjected to elongation. I can take either horizontal or vertical. Let's say this is the fixed support. Okay. So the fixed support, did they say which is going to be brass and which is going to be steel? So brass and steel, I'm taking it in the order. Are taken in the order. Each are of length, how much value? 1 meter. And there is a deforming force F that is applied. They're asking how much is the force per unit area that we need to apply on this material so that there is a net elongation of how much value? 0.2 millimeter. Right? So what is going to be the physics behind it? So the deforming force which is acting on the steel will tend to elongate it. But we don't know by how much value. Let's say the elongation in steel is delta LS and the elongation in brass is delta LB. So according to the question, delta LS plus delta LB should be equal to how much? 0.2 millimeter. I hope this point is clear. Then what else have they given? They've given the Young's modulus for steel and brass, which is 120 into 10 power 9 and 16 to 10 power 9 Newton per meter square respectively. Now let's try. Tell me, guys. So what is the formula that we know? Y is equal to F divided by A. Delta L will be here, L will be here. So out of all the parameters, what is that we have in our hand? Let's say delta LB is equal to F by A, okay, F by A into L divided by Y. Can I write it like this? The Young's modulus of brass. What is delta LS?
So
F
F by
by
A
A.
into L by Y.
Yes. Here I expected a question. So when the force F is applied here, will the same force reflect here also?
No, sir, but we can take F because we only want the net force.
So how are you going to take it? So whatever equation I took is right.
Sir, Fs and Fb we have to put, sir.
If I take it like that, it will be, I don't know what is the force, no? So what is your answer? If I take it like that, I'm introducing too many unknowns. I don't know what is Fs and Fb. There is a keyword in the question. They've used a technical name there. How are they connected?
In series.
Series.
They're able to understand. So series means the same amount of force will get transformed there. So when that is the case, the net elongation is going to be delta LS plus delta LB. Okay. Similarly, if they say they are connected in parallel, then they will have the same amount of elongation, the same concept as that of springs. Okay, whatever you do for spring, you are going to do the same thing here. Maybe we'll learn that in simple harmonic motion. Are you guys clear? So whenever they say series, the force is going to be the same. Whenever they say if they're in parallel, the elongation is going to be the same. Delta LS divided plus delta LB. So what is delta LS? If it is F by A into, can I say L by YS plus L by YB? What is the value of net elongation? It is 0.2 into 10 power minus 3. F by A is what is the unknown parameter that we need to find. Let me call it as P into, what is the length of first wire? First wire is 1, and for the steel is 60, 120 into 10 power 9 plus 1 divided by 60 into 10 power 9. Right. So from this, I hope it is easy for you to get calculated. So multiply with 2 here and 2 here, it will become 120. So it is going to be 0.2 into 10 power minus 3 is equal to P into 3 divided by 120 into 10 power 9. It become 40 times, which implies P is equal to 0.8 into 10 power minus 7. 10 power minus 7 only, no? It is, no, 10 power 6. 10 power 9 into 10 power minus 3. Yes, 0.8 into 10 power 6. Is there an option? Answer is none of these. Let me check. Yes, the answer is none of these. We don't have an option. I hope you guys understood the problem, right? So it was 2019 question. So let me know once you're done. We'll move to the next problem. Shall I move? Forty into 0.2 is 8. 8 into 10 power 6. See, next one. The elastic limit of brass is 379 million Pascal or megapascal, whatever you can say. What should be the minimum diameter of brass rod if it is to support a 400 Newton load without exceeding its elastic limit? The elastic limit of brass. Okay. So there is a brass rod for which you have suspended a load of how much value? 400 Newton. It should be able to withstand it by undergoing the elastic elongation, and all these things should happen within the elastic limit. How do
Sir,
I solve it?
379 is equal to 400 by pi into d by 2 the whole square. Oh, sorry.
Okay. So what is the concept, Rasulullah? 379 is the elastic limit. So
So
elastic
that you
limit
can
now
take
what?
it as a strain. Maximum
Strain
strain.
at again?
Sorry,
Strain at
stress.
This is
Sorry.
the maximum stress.
Is equal to force
Max.
by A.
So maximum stress is equal to force by area, right? So what is the maximum stress? It is 379 into 10 power 6 is equal to, what is the maximum force that can be acting on it? 400 divided by pi into r square. R square bala, I can write it as d square by 4. Is that right? So this will go up. So 379 into 10 power 6 is equal to 1600 divided by pi into d square. So one unknown, one equation. Is this right? So this calculation part, I'm leaving it to you. So whatever value you're going to get, that will be the answer out of the 4 options. See, generally these kind of calculation problems, do it at the end, or else you're going to waste time. Clear? So I hope we can move to the next one.
Sir, I think it's A, sir.
Yeah, the 0.9 now.
Sir. I think so.
But let me check the answer. Second one is C. It's given as 1.16. Just check your calculations.
Oh, sorry, sir. I thought numerator is greater. Okay. Sorry, numerator is lesser, I thought.
Okay, you went by the trial and error method.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it is 1.16 millimeter. That's the answer. Shall I move on to the next one, guys? Next. Young's moduli of two wires A and B are in the ratio 7:4. Okay. Young's modulus of A is to Young's modulus of B is equal to 7:4. Wire A is 2 meter long. So length of A is 2 meter and radius of A is R. Wire B is 1.5 meter long and radius of B is 2 millimeter. If the two wires are stretched by the same length for a given load, then the value of R is close to. Means force on both the same. And what else is same? Delta L is same. So YA, or I can write the general formula, I'll look at the proportionality values. Y is equal to F into L divided by A into delta L. Correct? So what is constant? F by delta L is constant. So I can say Y is directly proportional to L by A. Correct? So YA divided by YB is equal to LA divided by the area of A divided by LB divided by area of B. So what is the length of A? 2 divided by area of A is pi r square, the whole divided by, what is the length of B, guys? It is 1.5, that is 3 by 2 divided by pi into 4 square. Remember, radius as of now is in terms of mm. So YA by YB is 7 by 4 is equal to pi and pi will get cancelled. This will go to the numerator. 16 into 2 is how much? 32. 32 into 2 is 64. 64 divided by 3r square. So which implies r square is equal to 64 into 4 divided by 3 into 7. So from this we can calculate r will be equal to 8 into 2 divided by root 21. So rationalize it, root 21 divided by 21. Okay. So 16 by 21 into root 21, that's going to give you the answer. The answer should be in terms of millimeter. Yes, the options are like that. Right? Next. Next. There is a steel wire having radius of 2 millimeter. It is carrying a load of 4 kilogram, is hanging from a ceiling. Given that G is equal to 3.1 pi meters per second square, what will be the tensile strength that would be developed in the wire? You guys do it and tell me fast. See, for the time being, I'm okay if you use calculator, but make sure when you're practicing it, you don't use it.
Sir, 3.1 into 10 power 6.
So option C are the fourth. That's right. So I think it's a simple formula, right?
Yes, sir.
Y
Yes,
is
sir.
equal to F into A by A delta. It's the same formula again. F will be 40. L is how much, sir?
Sir, அதெல்லாம் இல்ல sir. Direct
No, what they asked only the tensile strength.
stress தான் கேட்டாங்க sir. F by A.
So F by A. That's what you need to find. Okay. F by A into L divided by delta L. So Y into delta L divided by L is the stress. So Y is given.
Sir, why do you need all that, sir? அது stress மட்டும் தானே கேட்டிருக்காங்க.
Oh,
Tensile stress.
sorry. Just F by A, no? That is 40 divided by area pi r square. That's right. Okay. Oh, they asked us to take G as 3.1 pi. Okay. Then it is going to be 4 into 3.1 into pi. This pi and pi will get cancelled. I think this will make things easy, no? So 4 into 3.1 divided by r square. R square is again 4. It's just 3.1. So 3.1, this is the option. Next. Do the fifth one, guys. There is a boy's catapult which is made up of rubber cord which is 42 centimeter long with 6 millimeter diameter of cross section and negligible mass. Okay. The boy keeps a stone weighing 0.02 kilogram and it stretches the cord by 20 centimeter by applying a constant force. When released, the stone flies off with a velocity of 20 meters per second. Neglect the change in area of the cross section of the cord while stretched. The Young's modulus of rubber is close to. Means they are not concerned about the change in area. They are not concerned about the lateral strain. Can you tell me what are the physics involved behind this problem? Why is the stone able to fly with a velocity? So when it has a mass and velocity, what is the quantity that we can define for it?
Momentum, kinetic energy.
So linear momentum and kinetic energy. So in this context, are we going to use linear momentum or kinetic energy?
Linear momentum, sir.
Okay, if you use linear momentum, according to Newton's second law, F is equal to delta P by delta T. We don't have time, no? If at all you thought of relating it to force, we don't know the time.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So what can we do? Logically think and see that the elastic material is being pulled, stone is kept in it. So when the material is pulled and it is held at a position, what does it possess? I'm not going to give you the keyword. What physical quantity does it possess?
Potential.
When it, see, what potential energy? It's the elastic potential energy. That is what is getting converted to
The kinetic energy.
That's it. Perfect. So we're going to apply the same thing. Okay. So the physics that I'm able to see in this problem is elastic potential energy is converted to kinetic energy. So how do I write the elastic potential energy? It is half kx square. Right? Is it not half kx square? So what is the elongation they have to? Stretches by 20 centimeters. So what is the value of k, guys? What is the strain? What is the value of k?
YA by L. Into,
Sir, Purila, how YA by L?
I told you a formula. No? Force constant of a wire.
Oh, sorry, I missed that, sir. Okay.
Okay. Now let's apply. What are all the, is the Young's modulus given for this material? Oh, that's what we need to find. Into delta L square is equal to, what is the change in the kinetic energy is half mv square. Let's see. So what is, y is what we need to calculate. Y into, what is the area, guys? 6 mm diameter. So pi into d square, that is 36 divided by 4 in terms of millimeter. So millimeter is 10 power minus 3 meters. So into 10 power minus 6, can I write it like this? Into 10 power minus 6 divided by, the original length is 42 centimeters. So 42 into 10 power minus 2 into delta L is how much?
20
20.
centimeters.
So 20 into 10 power minus 2, the whole square, is equal to, mass is 2 into 10 power minus 2 into velocity is again 20 meters per second, that is 400. So is there anything that is getting cancelled? 20, this will cancel it 20 times. It will go 9 times. So y will be equal to 2 into 20 into 10 power minus 2 into 42 into 10 power minus 2, the whole divided by how much? 9 into pi into 10 power minus 6 into 10 power minus 4. So 10 power minus 2, 10 power minus 2, 10 power minus 4 will get cancelled. 2 into 20, 40 into 42 divided by 9 into pi into 10 power 6. So can you guys use calculator? Tell me what is the answer? It's, what is it close to? Let me also check.
Pi 22 by 7 எடுத்துக்கலாம் sir.
Your wish. Divided by 9 divided by is 59.44. I cannot ignore this, such a big value. The Young's modulus of the rubber is close to, so it's a multiple of what value? It's multiple of 10 power 6. So can I say it is close to 10 power 6? So that's what we can say, right? So that's what I'm getting. 40 into 42 divided by 9 into divided by 9 divided by 3.14. 59.44 is what I'm getting. Let me check what is the answer. Fifth one. Yes, the option is A. So 10 power 6 Newton per meter square. Okay. That's the answer, guys. Next. Can try the next one. Is there anyone who's making a note of it? Shall I move on to the next one? This chapter, the only problem is a lot of calculations are there. Shall I move on, guys?
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Okay.
அந்த while
Yes.
2 into 20 இன்னொரு 20 எங்க சார் வந்தது?
எந்த 20 டா? Which 20 are you? இதுவா?
அது 20 ஸ்கொயர்ல சார். அங்கேயே 400.
Oh, I missed a 20 again. Huh? Okay.
No, you should have canceled the 20 no sir. சொல்றேன் சார்.
I did it, no?
No, அங்க ஏன் 20 போட்டு ரைட் RHSல நீங்க 20 போட்டுருக்கீங்க.
அதான் இந்த 20 நான் கேன்சல் பண்ணியிருக்கேன். That's a mistake I made. So this 20 will not come. கரெக்டா? இதானே சொல்றேன்?
அதான் சார். இது
வராது. அதுக்கப்புறம் it will be 10 power minus 4. I missed the square. 2 into 10 power minus 2 வே இல்ல இதுக்கு மேல. There is 2 into 10 power minus 2. That's right. இல்ல இது மீதியெல்லாம் கரெக்ட் தான். 10 power minus 2. So it should be 2 into 42 divided by 9 into pi. Let me check. 2 into 42 divided by 9 divided by 3.15. 2.97. Now, yes. 2.97 can be approximated to 3. So 3 into 10 power 6, it is close to 10 power 6. Now it is justified. Because I had a doubt of that 59 point something. Why can't the answer be 10 power 7? Now it's fine, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Next. A load of mass M is suspended from a steel wire of length 2 meter and radius 1 millimeter in a Searles apparatus experiment. The increase in length produced in the wire is 4 millimeter. Now the load is fully immersed in a liquid of relative density 2. The relative density of the material of the load is 8. The new value of the increase in length of the steel wire is. See, this problem, since it is immersed in a liquid, the concept of buoyant force comes into picture. So I feel it's better we solve it in the next chapter. Are you guys comfortable with the formula of buoyant force? If not, I'll proceed. If not, I'll go to the next one. If you're comfortable, I'll do this. You people tell me.
Sir, ஞாபகம் இல்ல sir.
No problem. Okay, nothing. So remind me in the next chapter, okay. So next, a rod of length L at room temperature and uniform area of cross section A is made of metal having a coefficient of linear expansion alpha per degree Celsius. It is observed that an external compressive force F is applied on each of its ends. It prevents a change in length of the rod when the temperature rises by delta K. Young's modulus is. Okay. So, do you guys remember the coefficient of linear expansion? There is a formula like this. L final is equal to L initial into 1 plus alpha into delta T. That is, when a solid of length L is subjected to an increase in temperature or subjected to a temperature change of delta T, and if it has the coefficient of linear expansion as alpha, then the final length is given as the initial length multiplied with 1 plus alpha delta T. I hope you guys know this formula. Where from this I can write alpha is equal to LF minus LI divided by LI into delta T. Is this fine or not? Do you guys know this or not?
Yes, sir.
This is clear, fine. So L final minus L initial, can I call it as delta L? Divided by L initial into delta T. What is delta L divided by Li according to this chapter?
Strain.
Longitudinal strain.
Yes, it is longitudinal strain. divided by delta T. So can I call this as alpha? Now so this is the concept I explained. Now let's read the question again. There is a rod of length L which is at room temperature and uniform cross section area A. It is made up of a metal. Okay, it's a solid. So this is applicable. This formula is applicable for solid. Having coefficient of linear expansion alpha per degree Celsius. It is observed that an external compressive force is applied at its ends. It prevents any change in length of the rod when the temperature rises by delta T. Then the Young's modulus for the metal is. So what they're trying to say is there is a metal rod which is fixed between two rigid ends. That is what is meant by compressional force. So when the temperature of this material is rising by what value? By a value of delta K, the compressional forces that are being applied at the ends is not allowing the material to expand. So this kind of a stress which is applied at the ends of a rod when it is subjected to heat is called as thermal stress. Anyways, we'll be discussing this in the next chapter as well. So there is a concept called as thermal stress. So this object is undergoing thermal stress. Clear? So Young's modulus is equal to stress by strain. So how can I write? So we need to find the stress. What is going to be the stress that is acting on this material? So stress is obviously, have they given the force? Yes, F is given. So F divided by cross-sectional area, A is also given. So both are known parameters. What is strain from this formula, guys? Strain is equal to alpha into delta T, correct? So can I write it as alpha into delta T? So Young's modulus is what? F divided by A alpha delta T. What's the answer? It's the fourth one. So to be precise, there is also a formula. Clear? So there is also a formula for Young's modulus when the object is subjected to thermal stress. I hope it is clear. I think there is a formula also. Let me check. Now see this one. The concept of thermal stress, F divided by A, Y alpha delta T. So Y is equal to F divided by A alpha into delta T. So this just 30 seconds, you can solve this problem. And you can remember it as a formula also. Please let me know if there is any doubt.
Clear, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So shall I move on to the next one? Now let's see. It's a 2018 mains problem. Let's see. So there is a solid sphere, a three-dimensional shape of radius r, made up of soft material of bulk modulus K, and is surrounded by a liquid in a cylindrical container. Again, a liquid comes. We might need to use density. Let's see. Is surrounded by liquid in a cylindrical container. Okay. The massless piston of area A floats on the surface of the liquid, covering entire cross section of the cylinder. Okay. When a mass m is placed on the surface of the piston to compress the liquid, the fractional decrement in the radius of the sphere would be. Okay. So did you guys understand what they're trying to say? Read the question. No? I'll give you some time. Read it. Did you guys understand what they're trying to say?
Yes, sir.
So let me show it diagrammatically. There is a cylindrical container inside which there is a liquid. Okay. and there is a solid sphere of radius small r which is kept inside. Okay, and they have kept a piston on the surface in such a way that it is covering the complete cross-sectional area of what? Cross-sectional area, okay, of the cylindrical container. I thought it's sphere. Okay, it's covering the total cross-sectional area of the cylinder. And how much is, it's a massless piston of area small a. Area of cross-section is small a. It's floating on the surface, covering the entire. Okay, when a mass m is placed, let's say there is a small block of mass m that is placed on the surface, what do you think will happen to the liquid? There will be a force of mg acting in the downward direction, due to which the liquid will tend to experience pressure, right? So the liquid has placed on surface to compress the liquid, the fractional decrement. Okay, when the liquid is going to experience the pressure will get transmitted and it will fall on whom? The solid sphere that is kept, due to which there will be a small decremental value in the radius of it. If you observe, they didn't ask what is delta r by r, rather they asked dr by r, means it's a very, very, very small value that we need to calculate it here. Okay, so how do we proceed with this problem? It has nothing to do with buoyant force, nothing. You just need to use the definition of one of the parameters that is given in the question.
Bulk modulus, sir.
Yes. So what is the formula for bulk modulus?
Minus
Bulk modulus is, yes, minus
F by A.
Okay, I can write it as delta P itself. Delta V by V. Okay, you want to write it as F by A. That is how you are comfortable. We'll go with it. Minus. What is the force that is
mg.
responsible? Yes, minus mg divided by what is the area of cross section on which it is acting?
It covers
It is,
entire.
yes,
So
it is the piston. It is, this mg is actually acting on the piston. So piston is what is exerting the pressure, divided by what is the value of delta V, guys? The only difference is here we cannot use delta V, because why can't I use delta V? Because it's going to be a very small value. Rather, I will use it as dV divided by V. Correct? So delta V by V, I'm not disturbing it. And you're talking about K is the bulk modulus of which material? It is the bulk modulus of the solid sphere. Correct? So V is equal to 4 by 3 pi into R cube. If I need dV here, what am I supposed to do? dV, I'll differentiate it with respect to R. I'm going to get 4 pi R square. Correct? So dV will be 4 pi R square. dV will be 4 pi R square dr. Correct? So K will be minus mg divided by A divided by 4 pi R square into dr, the whole divided by, what is the original volume of the sphere? That is 4 by 3 pi R cube. Pi gone, 1 R will be left out, 4 and 4 are gone, 3 will go to the numerator. So minus 3 mg divided by A into dr divided by R is equal to K. So take dr by R this side, K this side, minus 3 mg divided by AK is the answer. So which is the option? There is no 3 mg here.
Sir, C what they say.
No, this 3 will see actually. This is the problem with my space constraint. See, mg divided by A divided by 4 pi R square dr divided by 4 pi R cube, the whole divided by 3. No, this 3 will actually go here, because that 3 is in the fifth line. So minus mg divided by 3Ka, is there an option like that? Mg divided by 3Ka.
So the 3 will go to the third line, no, sir. 4 pi R squared here.
No, third or fourth.
Sir,
Third
it's
or
the fourth option.
Third or second. Second is the same term. Because See, I understand what's your doubt. Just give me a minute, no? The charge is over. Listen. So A by B divided by C by D means second line and third line will get multiplied, no? So D will go to the numerator. But here I have by E. Where will that E go? E, if it goes here, anyways, this and this will get multiplied. No, it's the same. Siddharth, are you clear?
Yes, sir.
Got it? Yeah, that's what I did. So option D. Let me check once. Then in the eighth problem, right? So eighth problem, D is right, correct. Okay. Shall we move on to the next one? I hope till now the problems are not tough, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next one. So there is a pendulum which is made up of uniform wire of cross-sectional area A and has a time period T. When additional mass M is added to its bob, the time period changes to Tm. If the Young's modulus of the material of the wire is Y, then 1 by Y is equal to how much? So they are talking about a pendulum which is made up of uniform wire of cross-sectional area A, which has a time period of T. So what is the time period of a pendulum? 2 pi root of L by G. So in this problem, T is given, L is not given. L is the original length. When an additional mass of M is added to its bob, okay, so the pendulum is like this. The bob, let's say it's of mass M, and there is an additional mass of capital M that is added. The time period changes to Tm. So reason why it is changing is because, see, generally if you observe, no, the time period of a pendulum is independent of the mass. But in this question, why is it changing to Tm? Can you guys tell me the answer?
There is a longitudinal strain.
Very good. So when there is a mass that is getting added, there will be a small elongation taking place in the wire. It is not going to be L anymore, it will be L dash. Right? So can I write Tm is equal to 2 pi into root of L plus a small change in the value divided by G? Am I right? So that delta L is taking place due to the additional mass that is added. Now what we will do is we will try to write small l in terms of Young's modulus. How can we do that?
Sir, YA delta L by F.
YA delta L by L. But here, see here we need not take YA delta L by L because initially there is no elongation. They didn't speak about it. Right? Initially when the bob is suspended, whatever is the length of the wire, that is taken as L. So in this problem, we only need to ensure that delta L is written in terms of Y because delta L is happening due to M and M is happening due to the Young's modulus of the wire. So how do I write delta L in terms of other parameters? So Y is equal to force divided by area divided by delta L by L, correct? So Y is equal to, what is the force due to which this Young's modulus concept comes into picture? That is capital Mg divided by the area of cross section of the wire, the whole divided by the change in length divided by the original length. Accepted? So what is delta L? Mg divided by, is it MgL divided by Y into A? Is this right?
Yes,
MgL
sir.
divided by, so Tm will be how much? 2 pi into root of L plus MgL divided by Ya, the whole divided by G. So what are they expecting? They're expecting 1 by Y. So 1 by y means, can we divide and see? So you have square everywhere. So what we can do is we can square and divide them. So t square divided, is it t square by tm square? You have both the combinations. T square divided by tm square is 4 pi square into L divided by G divided by 4 pi square into L into 1 plus mg divided by YA, the whole divided by G. So G and G will get cancelled. 4 pi square is gone, L is gone. So rearrange the equation. 1 plus mg divided by y into a is equal to tm square divided by t square. I took it this side. I just cross multiplied. So mg divided by y into a is equal to tm square divided by t square minus 1. So what is 1 by y, guys? It is a divided by mg into tm square divided by t square minus 1, or tm by t the whole square minus 1. A divided by mg, okay, either a divided by mg into tm by t the whole square minus 1. So, is it clear? So make a note of it. You're done?
Yes, sir.
So we'll do one last problem. So try this. The pressure of a medium is changed from 1.01 into 10 power 5 Pascal to 1.165 into 10 power 5 Pascal. And the change in volume is 10%. They have given the percentage change, keeping the temperature constant. The bulk modulus of the medium is how much? So what is the formula for bulk modulus? Minus delta P divided by delta V by V. So what is the change in pressure, guys? 1.165 minus 1.01 into 10 power 5, the whole divided by fractional change is how much? See, percentage is fractional into 100. So if you want fractional, divide the percentage with 100. So percentage is 10 divided by 100 is going to give you the fractional value, right? So whatever it is, calculated, you will get the answer. So what is the difference between both? Minus 5. 0.055 into 10 power 7 divided by 10. So it will go 10 power 6 times.
Option D, sir.
Yes. So 1.55 into 10 power 5. That's the answer. Yes, that's right. So I got it. So we'll do a few more problems and then we'll move on to the next chapter. That is mechanical properties of fluids in tomorrow's class. So tomorrow we'll be discussing fluid statics. Then we'll go to fluid dynamics. Okay. I hope things are clear. I'll share this document with you guys. You can have a look at it. If you have missed to write down anything, you can copy it from here. Okay, just wait for a minute.